And we are back. You are chatting with John P. Today, we are going to be talking about a watch where actually you'll find out that it's a collection of watches from a major, somewhat prestigious manufacturer that nobody wants at all. Now, these watches, really, nobody wants them at all. Out of the thousands of phone calls that we received at delraywatch.com last year, precisely one phone call was about this entire collection of watches, and it blows my mind because, disclosure, I really enjoyed this collection. But first, like and subscribe, do all that stuff. I've been asking you guys a lot, but it keeps me going, kind of like prod me a little bit like a herd of cattle to get me making more videos and more content for you and some inside scoop into the watch industry. You can find more about all that stuff at my Instagram page, The Real John P, down below. Check it out. I do appreciate that as well. So let's talk about it, guys. Well, first of all, you're probably wondering which watch or which collection is it? Okay, it's the Omega Deville line. The entire line. All of the Omega Deville watches. Now, the Omega Deville lineup, and by the way, there's way more Omega Deville watches that are actually in the stores currently than you probably realize. It's surprising. I was even surprised when I reviewed their website. They kind of stealthily release these things, which blows my mind that they even keep producing it considering my estimated sales numbers for them based on the pre-owned sales. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk about the history behind this Deville line. Now, the Deville line was kind of aired out to be a dressier line, right? It came out in about 1960, I believe, and it was a dress line, and they stamped the Deville name on some Seamasters and some of the other watches that they were producing and some more generic, dressier looking watches, Omega, of course. And they were just dressier models, right? Like there was a dressier Seamaster. They were certainly not sports, and they were very dressed up. Now they came on bracelets, they came on straps, and they still do to this day. So you could wear it a little bit more casual, a little less dressy if you wanted to. But it's interesting because as you see the transition from everyone wearing dress watches back in the 60s and in the 70s up into sports watches of the 90s until today, Omega always focused on their Deville lineup. And of course, I can only speculate on the sales numbers historically, but I can chime in and say that these things just don't trade. And it's really depressing because these are current day really amazing watches. The one thing I wanted to drive home is that when Omega unveiled their coaxial movement, they chose the Deville lineup to debut this specific highly advanced for the time movement, which is interesting considering they believed so much in this line, or perhaps they just wanted to use it as a bit of a guinea pig because they knew that it would only get into so many hands, and if they received complaints on it, the complaints would be few and far between because a total of 10 guys would be there to complain. I don't know. I'm just speculating, and it's certainly funny to think about it. But what I do want to talk about is, there's only so much history on this lineup because, once again, it's not a popular line. It doesn't have a rich history like the Speedmaster and some of the other more notable watches that Omega produces. But what they do have is they have a whole lineup of these watches. They've got 5 or 6 versions of the Deville, and I had to actually take notes on this because that's how uncommon these are. And while I certainly know what they look like, they've been changing up a few of the lines, and they've actually just released a current line from the Deville collection. So what they have is they have an Hour Vision, which is my favorite. I'm going to show you pictures. It's an amazing watch. They've got the Tresor, which is the newer kind of ladies themed watch, but they have a 40 millimeter version, which doesn't make sense to me. It kind of reminds me of the Code 1159 that AP recently announced and will be releasing. It's very confusing, a 40 millimeter ladies watch. But then they have the Prestige line, which is a little more entry level. They have the ladies line, it's just the ladies, and then they have the Deville, so they have a Deville, which is confusing, but it is their higher end line just underneath their tourbillons. That's right, Omega does produce some extremely high end tourbillons in the Deville line. I'll be showing you a picture. These are incredibly sophisticated and really technically amazing watches. So let's talk about, well, first of all, I want to say that all of these watches in this entire line, I went to the Omega Boutique recently in a mall close by where I live, and I just wanted to see these watches. There's nowhere else to see them. They don't circulate pre-owned. We sell pre-owned in a little bit gray market, and there's just not a lot of these things floating around. So you basically have to go to Omega Boutique, because only the Omega Boutique is going to be crazy enough to stock these things, because the numbers are very low. Once again, very high quality, and I'll tell you, the quality is extremely high. I would say across the board, the quality is up there with Rolex, if not a little bit better on some of the models, especially from their Deville line. I can't believe they call it the Deville. Whatever. And the quality is very high. When you look at the movements are incredibly sophisticated coaxial movements, much better movements than you'd actually find in their current day Seamaster and Sports lineup, which few people realize exist. They have better movements in their dressier watches than the watches that people don't even know exist. And anyway, the quality was there, right? The line really feels, and it gives off the appearance and the overall look and aesthetic of something from the Cellini line, right? So for the Rolex, they produce similar looking watches as some of these in the Deville lineup or collection as the Cellini, and the Cellini also doesn't do very well, though incredibly high-end watches for the Rolex brand. I think there's something to be said about that, but nonetheless, let's talk about a few of these watches. I'm going to put pictures up here because you guys really do need to see what these things look like. In my opinion, they're incredibly beautiful, and the quality is there, and I'll be showing you a picture of the movement. So let's talk about the first one here. We have the Prestige line, right? The Prestige line, it gives off the appearance of just your kind of like a little bit more casual, but certainly dress watch, right? They got the sector-ish dials, and they've got ones with Roman numerals, Arabic numerals, and they have ones with kind of like this alabaster, almost linen dial, which I think really looks great. And when I saw that in person, I was very impressed, because for a brand that typically doesn't focus primarily on the way that their dials are sophisticated, because right, they make a lot of sports watches, to see something come from a brand that is really focused around sports watches was just amazing in my opinion. I was really drawn to these watches, and considering you can have these watches for about $3,400 brand new, around $2,400 pre-owned if you find one. I mean, that's almost comical to see that level of watch. The finishing was very high-end, the finish, it fit very well. They had two different sizes, around a 36, it's like 36 and a half, and like a 38.7. They had to get that precise with the measurement. So they do have a couple of sizes for you, so this is a great option, especially considering that this is a more, entry-level line. It has the same movement as in some of their Seamasters, so you have that coaxial, incredibly sophisticated movement, and certainly high-end, and for a few $1,000s brand new, I mean, it's a no-brainer. So if you're willing to go off the beaten path, that's a pretty cool watch to check out. I'd recommend it, and having put it on my wrist and felt it, I can certainly recommend it. And the movements and all the other Rockstar watches that Omega produces, no problems there. But this next watch I want to show you is the Deville Chrono. Now, this Deville chronograph, I am incredibly embarrassed for Omega, because you can see how much time and effort they put into not only designing this watch, but also the movement that's behind it. This coaxial movement that's in this chronograph is not your basic off the street, like Seamaster quality coaxial movement. No. This movement, the 9300, of course, it has more features than your other movements. You have a coaxial escapement, a silicone balance spring, two barrels, and a column wheel. So it's incredibly sophisticated for a modern day chronograph movement. It's in-house, and the rest of the quality of the watch is up there with, I would say, even some of the Vacheron chronographs I've held and played around with. And considering that, now this is the most ridiculous and absurd thing about this watch. Trust me, it's very high quality, especially when you feel it. It's hefty, it's 42 millimeters. But what's crazy about this is you can find this from gray market sellers at $4,400, $4,400 US, brand new. Guys, I'm surprised. I don't really know how to convey how shocked and embarrassed for the Omega brand. I mean, this is an $8,000 retail watch in stainless steel. They also have precious metals, which is, not a bad deal to begin with, but $4,000 for this type of movement, column wheel chronograph, coaxial escapement, double barrel silicone hairspring. I mean, it checks off the boxes in all of the nice to haves for a high-end movement for $4,000 brand new from a brand like Omega. Maybe you don't like the design. I personally think the design is charming. It's not your Speedmaster, and certainly the movement is not a Speedmaster. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Did you know that this watch existed? I knew it existed, but I never really focused on it because, once again, these things just, no one has these. No one is buying them. And besides the fact that people don't really wear too many dress watches, I don't really know why. What do you guys think about this? Tell me in the comments below what you think about this modern day Deville chronograph. I'm blown away. I'm absolutely blown away. I had to share this particular watch with you. It's just very gorgeous. Now, of course, I want to talk about some other quick watches from this collection, the Deville collection, because they're all overlooked. They're all overlooked, and the only way you're probably going to see one is an AD that unfortunately was forced to stock it, or from a boutique. So otherwise, you're stuck with the internet, and I can only say so much to convey the quality. But what else we have in the line is we've got the Deville line, which is, the Deville. I'll put a picture here. Nothing to say about it. There's also like a Tresor line. It's supposed to, well, first of all, it's hand wind. It's precious metals. It's supposed to be marketed towards ladies. They have a 40 millimeter. Picture here, you can see it's a confusing line for me. They have a bit of a message about the heritage and all that, whatever. Set that aside. I still think it's a really great watch. In the 40 millimeter, it is a little more feminine of a case shape, but the size is 40 millimeters. What are they doing? I don't understand, but it's still a very interesting and, in my opinion, a very beautiful watch. I don't know if I can recommend that, considering I'm very confused about that particular piece, though it is very charming. The tourbillons. Now, we'll have a picture here of this tourbillons. There's only so much you can say about it. They're incredibly high-end. They're numbered pieces. Omega has released tourbillons in the past, numbered and unnumbered, but very limited production, very high-end. I mean, we're talking $100,000 plus. I think the more affordable the option is about $150,000, and that one is actually in platinum. For some reason, the golds are a little more expensive, almost double, I believe. But nonetheless, if you're into those kind of high-end pieces, we can talk about that another time. I've personally handled one Omega tourbillon, not from the current generation. I don't know where you'd probably find one of those. Probably one of the more prestigious ADs in New York City or some of the other major cities. I think you could probably find one on the shelves, but I didn't see one in the boutique, and the mall is probably the most prestigious mall in the state of Florida, so a little confusing about that, but that's just high-end pieces from manufacturers that don't produce a lot of ultra high-end. Nothing too much to say that's notable about that. And so what I also want to talk about is the Hour Vision. The Hour Vision, along with the chronograph, is amazing. Technologically, what they did with this watch, and I believe it was the Hour Vision lineup from the Deville line, was actually the first watch that featured any of their coaxial movements when they released them originally. Here's the thing about this watch. Everything else, yeah, a coaxial movement, blah, 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 stainless steel or precious metal, whatever, that's fine. What I want to tell you specifically about this watch that puts it on my short list, I'm actually thinking about buying this watch for myself, regardless of the price, because here's what's special about this Hour Vision watch. It has sapphire case sides. Now, there's a picture here you'll see. You can see inside of the watch from the sides of the watch. Sure, sapphire display case back, very commonplace in high-end watches and manufacturers today, and brands and labels all the time. You see it for the last 20 years, 30 years, maybe closer to 20 years. Sapphire sides of watches they're usually in really high-end manufacturer pieces. I mean, we're talking like Hublot, and I think Roger Dubuis has one of these, and other pieces, maybe a De Bethune has one. I'm drawing a blank on some of the other manufacturers that do this because it's so uncommon to be able to see inside of your watch from the sides and see a beautiful coaxial Omega movement like that, highly decorated, highly finished, all of the interesting surfaces that make the coaxial movement something interesting to look at for a watch buff. I mean, what's embarrassing about this, considering how nice and how impressive, in my opinion, this watch is, these things trade at like $3,000 pre-owned. To get a watch that has sapphire case sides at $3,000, I'm embarrassed, I'm excited. So many feelings and emotions are coming out of me at this point about this scenario. I can't believe it. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. This is turning into a bit of a rant or rave, but as I thought about this, in these watches that you've seen here and we're chatting about, I really need to know what you think below. Why aren't you guys buying these things? Why are you not? I mean, is it because there's so few out there? Did you not know they exist? Please tell me. I can't process this. Anyway, so there are some people who wear these watches. Now, who wears these watches, right? I mean, maybe some people you know, maybe some people you don't know, probably the latter, but certainly there's a couple celebrities. So what Omega does is, with their Deville line, they've got this thing called the Orbis, and so basically what happens is you have Michael Phelps and Cindy Crawford. They get inside of a plane and they fly this Boeing plane around the world, and they bring doctors with them, and they perform procedures and give out free glasses to people in impoverished nations. And so you have this professional swimmer and this like retired cougar actor lady, and they just fly around the world. Or apparently, supposedly, they do this. Are they doing this? I don't know. But nonetheless, there's videos of them going on these planes and flying around wearing these Deville watches and chronographs, and the whole thing is with teddy bears. They give teddy bears to children and give them glasses. It's a whole thing where, it's philanthropy and they're giving back, and, that whole sort of like feel good, marketing thing. And, I'm sure they do this to some extent, but nonetheless, that's the only people in the world that I know that are wearing watches from the Deville line. Hopefully it's me soon, though, if I do pull the trigger on the Hour Vision. I just love that sapphire, the see-through case size. It's just amazing to get that. I mean, for $3,000, guys, less than the price of a Speedmaster Professional. You can see inside of your watch from the sides. That's just, why are people not buying this? Again, leave in the comments below. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to share this with you. As I was sitting down trying to think of a video topic, I'll admit it's kind of difficult at this point. I've been sharing a lot of things. We've been doing this together, talking about it in the comments. If you have any suggestions, leave it below. And this just came to mind, and I just don't understand, more so than the fact that dress watches, which these are dressier, are just not that popular. Let me know below, guys, what you think about the Deville lineup. Did you know they exist? All that kind of stuff. We don't have any of the current gen Devilles for sale at DelReyWatch.com, though we have a last gen Deville with the coaxial movement. It's got a power reserve. It's pretty cool, and it's certainly a ridiculous bargain. DelReyWatch.com. Like and subscribe. Do all that stuff. Leave in the comments below anything you want to say to me. Instagram, all that other stuff. It's Friday. I hope you all have a very great end to your day and a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. This has been Chatting with John P. Ciao.